hello, winners, everybody out there. This is my dear friend, Lisa Harding, who I used to work with at UiPath. And I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Dinez for starting that company. Because if Daniel and the other co-founders did not start that company, we would not have met.
That is absolutely 100% true. And I would say one of the biggest things that I took away from UiPath was the people that I met and the network that I created or added to my existing network, I should say.
Created a new circle.
Love it. Absolutely. And the partners, I worked with partners and many of them have become close friends. They're references for me, in this new job search. And the people was by far the best part of the job.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
So I got to say, so winners, just in case you didn't catch on, Lisa and I both worked at UiPath. This is where we met. It was a great company and we both got laid off. Oh, well, congratulations to us.
During the pandemic, no less.
Yeah. Well, I got first. They let me go first. Well, with 500 of my closest friends or 499 of my closest friends. And then Lisa got swept in one of the next waves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny. I was just talking to a former colleague this morning and we both thought that it was going to be a long-term situation that we were both going to stay at UiPath for a long, long time. So,
forever.
And it just goes to show that you never know. And so I'm looking at this opportunity as an opportunity.
An opportunity, yeah.
To come out better and stronger and more resilient, than I ever have been. So I'm not down and out and bummed. I look at it as a positive and an opportunity to do something bigger and better.
Which is what, so when I got that, right when I first called you up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to call her up and congratulate her on getting laid off, because I always think it's exciting when the universe speaks and says, or your boss just says, you will move on now, right? It's, there's a lot of uncertainty, so people can take it one of two ways. And,
yes.
I had no preconceived notions as to how you might take it, but I just want to say, hey, congratulations, sister. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing great. So I thought that was awesome. It's all in how you take it, winners. It really is. It's all in how you take it and what you make with it. And
absolutely.
Trying, and instead we're podcasting.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe that 100%, that you can, anything life's dealt you or that you come across, you look at it as a positive, or you can look at it as a negative. Yes, and what does the negative do for you? Really? Nothing.
Bring you down.
Yeah. You and everybody else around you. I mean, I think that's an issue too. And I'm trying to think, one of my favorite quotes, did I text it to you? I texted it to somebody. It's from Oprah. And she basically says, this is not going to be it exactly, but own the energy that you bring into a room.
Oh yeah.
And I love that, right? I mean, you own it for yourself, for the people in that room, for the people that are going to go home to their family that night and what kind of mood they're going to be in. Own it. And so
yes. I mean, absolutely go Oprah. We actually have a chant here where we say, go win. And it's not for just me or for just Win Circle. It's for everybody. It's like, go and win. And winning means being positive. And the power of positive thinking. It's funny that you mentioned Oprah. Not that I talked to her today, but I did read something that she wrote today, and I'll read it to you now.
Yeah.
Okay. It says, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more if you're thankful. Nice. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. Me that, I am a Miss, MISS, which means I've never been married, but I've had some very nice relationships. And I think that your positivity, your optimism, and your awareness of what you're bringing to the situation, I imagine, has contributed to the happiness and well-being of your marriage.
Absolutely. I'm not perfect. First of all, let's put it that way. And we've had 29 years. They haven't all been rosy and butterflies, but we're committed to each other. We both come from family, non-divorced families, and that's not, usual, but, absolutely. And he's the same way. I mean, we bring each other up when we need to. I'm stronger at different things than he is. And we've just learned how to make it work. And we have 3 wonderful children. In fact, they're all going to be here on Thursday. So I've been cleaning the house busily. But just, having that family, that line that runs between all 5 of us. In fact, I got my very first tattoo 2 Christmases ago.
Nice.
And it's a Roman numeral 5 for Harding's
Cool.
5.
Like a V.
And the V, I'd show it to you, but then I have to put my leg up and that'd
I
be
was
weird.
gonna say,
But anyway, you know, that's how we are. We're tight knit, and you know, we try to be positive for sure. And raising 3 kids is not easy, especially in the teenage years. We had one that kind of went astray a little bit, and now he's the most straight-laced and narrow. So I think it's about wanting to win and wanting to be positive and better, and not throwing in the towel, because why would you do that?
Yes, it's so funny. It's wanting to win. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make. And so, you know, they say that, like, they don't say, it's a fact. Companies that are started by more than one person, like a team, a founding team, are more likely to be successful than companies that are founded by only one person. And it's like your family, right? So you have a support group, and you have a commitment, and you have this circle of that, a tight-knit circle. Yeah. And I was thinking, actually, just before we got on the call, about circles, and I'll tell you, you know, some more about Win Circle and how it got started and why. And I'm sure a lot of this you've already sort of surmised or taken away, but the sense of creating a circle of a positive place, a place of positivity, and that everyone who joins Win Circle, they're part of the circle. They've created more positivity. And then I was thinking about circles that we create ourselves in our own lives. So you have like a unique circle with just you and your husband. That's a circle in and of itself. Like, and you know, I just see this energy like feeding each other, right? Because you're connected. And so you've created this commitment. And so if one needs a little more positive energy, the other one provides it. Oh, by the way, what do you think?
I love it. Oh, I love it. That's great.
Listen, winners, you too can have your own mug, or you can have your own Win mug. Even better.
I love it. I love the color scheme. Very uplifting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's was given to me by an expo, actually.
I love it. Very nice.
We'll raise a glass to him.
I can't imagine going through life any differently, but you know, but again, my life's not perfect. It's not every, you know, I think it's
anyway.
It's a mindset, you know, it's a mindset, and in fact, it's interesting because a friend of mine from Santa Monica, we used to work out together, and then our gym closed because of the pandemic, and it closed permanently. And she was one of my very good friends. So, you know, 3 days a week I'd see her in spin class and yoga class or whatever. And then, you know, the gym closed down, and then I moved down here, and we still keep in touch via text, but she was having a hard time a couple of weeks ago, just with everything that's going on, working from home and not being able to work out. And I said, let's do this. When we think of something positive, let's text each other with just that thought whenever it pops into our head.
Oh.
And she's like, that's so cool. So then she sent me, now I remember with the Oprah quote. She sent me a quote, and I in turn sent her the Oprah quote about being responsible for the energy that you bring into a room. And that for that day, those were our positive thoughts. Now that I'm thinking about her, I need to send her something today that says, hey, I was just on a podcast and it was totally cool.
Okay, awesome. Should we know her first name or initials? Maybe her first initial of her first name. How about that?
It's Rosie.
Okay, Rosie. Okay, so let's light a candle for Rosie.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Sweet, very sweet person. And
for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, if more people did that and just thought about a positive thing, you don't have to do it even every day, but when you think of something, share it with somebody to help bring them up, or just tell them that you're thinking about them.
You are such an amazing winner, Lisa. Totally. I mean that, because
I want my mug. I want a mug, damn it.
I'm going to send you a mug. Text me your address afterwards. We'll send you a mug.
Okay. Sounds
Seriously.
good.
Maybe I'll even autograph it for you.
Ooh,
come off of the wash, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll put a little note on it. But seriously, I mean, that's an incredible thing. Like, you and your friend, that's your own circle. That's another circle that you have is you and Rosie.
Yeah. And it's interesting if you think about the circle concept. The circle concept 6 months ago, or for the last 2 years, was face to face, next to each other on a spin bike, next to each other with our yoga mats. And now we're virtual because I don't even live there anymore. And even if I did, we'd still see each other. But the gym that brought us together is no longer there. So our circle had to morph. And you know, that's just the way that life rolls too. As things change, you have to adjust to them. And I certainly wasn't going to lose her as a friend just because I live 90 miles away from her. And, so that's, again, another choice that you make. I think when you find somebody that's got that positive energy, you do maybe take a couple more steps to keep in touch with that person, because it's going to be a positive vibe all around.
Yeah, and you make that extra effort. And I think what's amazing is that, I mean, so many things are amazing about it, that you realize the extra effort doesn't take that much. Right?
Oh, not at all.
Text to let her know you're thinking of her. And yet you lift her up and she lifts you up. And you doing something good for someone makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. Like that's one of the, I was writing a note before, I'm going to do a podcast, and we're basically doing it right now, sister. But the message is, it's very simple. It's spread positivity because it feels good. And so you have a friend, and you said sometimes it's hard and we need to spread positivity. So you have this own circle. You're keeping each other up.
Yep.
Right. And you can expand that circle or not. That can be a unique circle. It's just, my point is, it's these connections. It's these energy connections. And so to get to why I started Win Circle, that's why I started Win Circle. Basically, I was looking around and there was like a lot of stuff on the news, and there was a lot of people that were having a hard time, and there was just so much going on. And I just felt like for me, it's actually been a good time in my life, because my father, who was out here, he thought he was vacationing, that he was going to go back to Florida. But
I saw when you were holding the lamb and you got the poison oak. I saw your dad.
Isn't he cute? He's so cute. Yeah. So for me, it's been a good time. My dad's been here. I don't have a formal job. So, there's like a lot of flexibility. And I just thought, I want to share that. I want to share the joy that I'm feeling with other people and like lift their spirits, because we all need to lift each other's spirits at times.
Right? Totally agree. Yeah. So, there should be more concerted efforts around that, in my opinion. Like, here's a thought, just, why couldn't you take that magic potion and sell it to an organization? And
we could do that, sister. We might do another company on this. You and I might.
So here's an example. Yeah. I used to work for Verizon when I first moved to California, and they provided workout. They brought trainers in. So unlike UiPath, where you got a card and you could go anywhere, they decided to just bring trainers into, we worked out on the beach down in Santa Monica.
Pretty nice.
And so, they had this budget of, it was a personal trainer, and I think she made it $150 an hour or whatever. And that was her business model. She would go to organizations like a Verizon who believed in their employees and wanted to lift them up and bring health to them. And so then part of their operating budget was this trainer. For as long as I was there for 2 years. And so why not a positivity, you'd have to think about how to market it, but the concept is that bringing. When we launched, I want to talk to you more about this, and maybe even offline too, but this is definitely part of Win Circle, is offering that service both to individuals and to corporations, because I've done so much in companies. I mean, I've co-founded and sold companies. Like, I know what it's like to be at the lowest of lows, and I know what it's like to be high. And I also know what an impact it has when your company's feeling good about itself and about other members in the company. So, well, and I mean, not to get tactical, but you could measure that. Right. You could go in, like, there's companies, I can think of one right now that needs it a lot. Right. And I mean, if you went in and surveyed people right now, the morale might not be so great, but if you were able to bring people up, and again, there needs to be a lot of thought that went into this, but I think conceptually, if an organization cares about their employees and wants them to be healthy and happy in today's environment, that looks a lot different than it did at Verizon when a trainer used to come in and go to the beach with us and work out. So you have to be thinking about, what can we do in this environment to supplement that or support that healthy worker?
I remember when I was consulting, and I would be brought in by literally board of directors, and they would say, go into this company and tell me why the company isn't successful. Okay. So I would go in and I would interview people. Yep. And what I found oftentimes was that goals were not set as they should have been set. So let's say you say, oh, we want to do, let's just pick a number. We want to do 10 million. How come? In whatever time period. Let's say it's next quarter. I want to do 10 million. How come? Well, because we want to do that to the investors. It's sort of a made up number is my point.
Yeah, right.
And it's not really based on anything because you don't have any data, but they've made up this number. They decided they wanted to do $10 million. If they had said that they wanted to do $6 million, okay, they could have made up that number, 6 million. Then they hit 8 million, which is a huge number. It's a great number. But because they had set a $10 million bar and they hit 8, they're like, oh, we suck. We stink. We're no good. Whereas if they'd set the bar at 6 million and then they hit 8 million, they'd been like, we are the champion.
Happy. Right.
So then what happens is people start looking at each other crossways. They go, well, that marketing department stinks, or that sales department stinks, or engineering didn't get the products out. And so rather than building on all the success of that, they just did 8 million, they're looking at it sideways and going, well, we didn't do 10, which is like ridiculous because they just made up the number anyway. Not to say that you shouldn't have, good goals and stretch for goals. You should have all those things. But you should also recognize the contributions that people are bringing in and focus on that. It's sort of like reviews. This is something that actually a friend at UiPath taught me many years ago, was that, reviews, like they focus on what people do wrong or they could do better or something like that. Why don't you focus on what someone's really good at and have them do more than that? So the review process could be like, hey, we see that you're really good at this. Would you like to do more of that? Yes, I would.
So everything that you're saying, I agree with, first of all, but who creates all of that? And that is, leadership. And I think we saw a lot, we throughout our careers have seen really good leaders and really poor leaders. So I think your philosophy is you've got to find, you already know this, but who's the leader that's able to make those changes and cares enough about people to invest in their, contentment, happiness, whatever. That's the only way it's going to work, because that's the company is what the leadership dictates. To Chicago and take somebody out to dinner and sell them a big services contract. You just don't do that anymore. So how do you get in and help those people redefine, how they do business?
I think there's a lot of talk about Zoom, like how Zooming, I just saw the headline of an article, which is like people get Zoom burnout or mental anxiety from, my sister's told me that she seems perfectly fine with it, but she's on from like sometimes 7 a.m. till like 10 or 11 at night. That's
not good. And then you look at, a company, speaking of Zoom, you look at a company like Microsoft Teams, right? They're out in the market big time. They want to win that space, and they are competing directly with Zoom and with Slack. How do you get in with a behemoth like that and say, here's how we're going to take Teams to the next level? It's about create positive, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But like the benefit to them is they need to figure out, how do I win against Zoom? How do I win against Slack? Is anybody thinking about this positivity vibration or whatever you call it? They should be. It's a differentiator, right?
Yes,
it should be. If it's not today, it needs to be.
What do you want to do now? What's your
I don't know, actually. I love partners. I think my forte is kind of like yours, and that is getting in to two organizations and creating a joint value proposition where everybody benefits. Basically, at the very high level, that's what I'm good at, what I've done for a lot of years. And so that would be an easy transition. I have probably, another 10 years that I want to work. So I want to make sure that whatever I do is interesting. But most importantly, I want to get in with a good group of people. I can do the work I've done for 30 years, but I'm really looking for a good group of people. And so I'm relying heavily on my network to say, who do you know that my skill set might fit with, versus just blasting a bunch of stuff out on LinkedIn, you know, because that's kind of a crapshoot. So, you know, then I've thought about, I'd love to open a yoga studio, but I need to make, I need to make money too. So, you know, that's
not mutually exclusive though. I mean, I think this is the thing is that I hope people are learning is that you can make money in different ways and you can do different things too. So you could open up a yoga studio and you could work for this company. You could do both. And I think we get to design it. We design our own lives. And so
absolutely 100%.
Yeah. So you may work for a firm, a consultancy firm. I mean, you and I may start another company, you know what I mean? That I'm not proposing that, but I'm just saying, you don't know what's going to happen. Like you get an idea and you put a shingle up and you say, this is what we're doing. And I will definitely keep my eyes and ears open for who I think, you know, might need your services for sure.
Yeah.
Send them your way. But I think
I think too, not to interrupt you, that this at this point in time is when new ideas are born.
Yes.
Like what you're talking
about. An opportunity.
Right. Like until I talked to you on the phone here today, I knew kind of what you were up to, but I think it's really interesting. And, you know, getting involved with a good person or people early in a concept and helping build the infrastructure to make it, you know, scalable and all that, that's very interesting to me too. Because you're creating your own destiny sort of as you go, if that makes sense. Versus, I mean, and that's kind of what I did at UiPath. I mean, I was one of 4 partner marketing people that joined the company to begin with, kind of the baseline, and built a strong program as a result of, you know, early on having people who were supportive and all of that. So that was super interesting to me. And so the whole startup mode is I guess what I'm saying that I'm not shying away from. And I use yoga as an example, but I'm also, and this sounds kind of fluffy, but I'm also really interested in skincare. And that's another, I just learned of a new company called Osea, OSEA. They're based out of Malibu, and they're all 100% vegan, like, products. And I would love to become involved in something like that, because that's interesting to me. But I mean, back to your comment about the Palo Alto event, that model of getting those thought leaders in a room and providing them, you know, hopefully the context that they needed around how at that point it was PwC that was ramping up to have commit to one robot for every person. Like, you could do that same thing with your messaging and tools that you could offer to, you know, these C-level executives. 4 people at that event, mainly that were at my table, basically said, we want to keep in touch with these people, right? We've met them. We've had drinks with them.
Yes.
The guy from Tesla said, I'm happy to host the next one, you know, but I didn't have the bandwidth to do that, you know, because
no, you couldn't. There's no way you could.
Right. But think of that concept, right?
Yes.
You get these people in a room and they're thought leaders that are exchanging ideas amongst themselves. There's your first circle. And then from that circle, they then create their own infrastructure of how they communicate with one another and how they help each other grow and, you know, become more successful in their own right. And the circle begins, and it kind of can grow from there to whatever you or that community wants to do, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And that is what interested me at UiPath. First of all, the people, right? Getting to know the people that we knew. That's what interested me, was connecting those people. Like, I remember that event, and I remember that person wanted to keep in touch with people. And I remember thinking, like, that, to me, would have been the most fun thing to do.
Exactly.
Even my boyfriend.
Yeah. And good for you. And I think that companies, and again, I know you're not only going after the corporate world, but they're going to need to be thinking about this more as people continue to work remotely and, just the work-life balance, to your friend's point, who spent 7 hours on the Zoom, you know, I mean, like, what are the long-term effects of something like this? And how do we head that off at the pass?
Yeah. How do we, so I think it's like a practical guide. I think it's a practical guide to positivity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on my next book, actually, which I think we're going to have when we launch. Not I think, we are having when we launch.
Okay.
I just see the quotes come up for the printer because I met with a printer yesterday. I'm going to self-publish it again. I like to self-publish.
Nice.
So I think that's a practical guide to positivity, though. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really what it's about, is giving some practical tips. And again, people have to choose. They have to choose if they want to be positive, like with your friend before. Choosing to
and in order to choose, you have to be aware of it and cognizant of it. And I think people don't talk about it enough. People don't talk about being positive. I mean, it's but you know, like if it's elevated to a position in one's subconscious, if you will, like how do you bubble that up so people do think about it on, and you know, that can happen in a lot of different ways through you know, your podcast, through education, through the white papers or the content that you're building. Like, you know, think back in the day when, you know, Google it wasn't even around. Now it's just a term. Go Google it. You'll find out what you know, whatever means. You know, positivity that could be coined as something that, what's the word I'm looking for? You know,
becomes
mainstream.
part of the nomenclature.
Yeah.
Becomes mainstream. Yeah. So I agree with that. I mean, how are you? It's like when someone says, "How are you today?" and everybody just says, "I'm good." They don't really think about necessarily how are you today?
Yeah.
Like we could have this whole conversation. I already know how you are. I know you're doing great. So what we could say is, Lisa, how are you today?
Yeah. And instead of just saying good, you know, don't take good as an answer. Dig a little bit deeper. Well, you know, tell me what's the best thing that's happened to you so far today, or this week, or I don't know.
Yeah, tell me something good. Tell me something good.
Tell me. But I mean, people say, "How are you?" Good, and then the conversation just goes on. It's just like it's just air. Doesn't even mean anything.
It gets to the genuineness of a conversation or the genuineness of a relationship or not. Right. I think that, you know, we look at right now where with COVID, people have masks, and it's very easy to see that someone has a mask because they're wearing a mask, but people have all kinds of masks all the time. And the more that you remove your masks and remove those layers, and the more that you're yourself with other people, the more they'll be more comfortable too, being themselves. But that's where you get a genuine connection, a genuine lasting connection. So it's asking that, you know, how are you today? Meaning it. And then tell me something good, because that puts them in a positive place.
Right.
Being real with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And demanding something other than just, I'm good.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of become the norm. And, you know, let's change that.
Now that all the juicy stuff has been discussed, winners, while we were offline. Sorry, we're back and we're going to say goodbye, Lisa.
Bye.
Love you. Thanks, Jared.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.